Greetings, Patrick here, Eight Questions with, and welcome to the show. Happy Wednesday to everybody. It's a beautiful day out here today in Michigan. Um, yeah, it's a perfect summer day right here. It was a little bit nippy earlier today, though. Um, but now it turned to be a beautiful, gorgeous day. And that's perfectly fit because we have the wonderful Sophie Mae Vee will be here with us in about 15 minutes or so. And speaking of beautiful, it's absolutely beautiful. Her art is just breathtaking. Um, she's also a alternative model. Hey, Jaden, how are you? She's also an alternative model. And the pictures her modeling pictures are outstanding. I put the link, her Sophie Mae's link in the chat. It's pinned on top of the chat, so you can go over there and check her out, and that includes her link tree. I would put her link trees down in the description box down below, as long as her Instagram as well. Highly recommend you guys go check it out. It's been a minute since we've had an artist on. I mean, we've had some on, but it is trying to get more back. Really miss talking to them, and Sophie is going to be it's going to be one hell of an interview, that's for sure. Hey, it's Mark the Shark swimming by. All right, I saw the dorsal fin out there, and with the hat on, and I said it could only be Mark the Shark. And then our good friend Jamie Hill is here, excellent actress Jamie Hill from I'm Haunted Too, and which I should be doing I should be reviewing that shortly. Looking forward to that as well. Um, I'm Haunted is a movie franchise. I think there's going to be a third one. There has to be a third one. There has to be. And There's a series, well, so far two movies from Higher Learning. And Absolutely wonderful movies. The first one is hilariously cool, wickedly cool. Stars the lovely Elizabeth Chamberlain as well as Jamie Hill, and Jamie has come back for the sequel. Um, I'm glad you're here. Glad you're here. It's awesome to know that you guys are here for this one too, because Sophie Mae Vee is, like I said, she is just an incredible artist and model. I cannot wait to sink my teeth into this. And that's not necessarily a metaphor either, because Sophie is an artist that uses some rather unique ingredients in her art, and you'll have to stay and check that out. We're going to be asking questions about it too. All right. I want to say thank you to everybody who came out yesterday. We interviewed Iowa filmmakers Rollins and Rebecca Harrelson. Um, just a dynamic husband and wife team of filmmakers out of Iowa, and had a great time talking to them last night. That is up on my page as well. Highly recommend to go check that out too, because um, Jude is definitely a very gifted director. We were talking about his film that he made last night, called Dreamtime, which is a beautifully shot film. Definitely going to probably make I can safe to say it's halfway through the year, and I can definitely say that it'll more than likely definitely be a top 15 for me. It's really a really strong film, um, really moving, and very well acted, and um, and the challenges of making the film were very interesting to hear about. So if you have not watched that interview, I highly recommend that. We're bouncing out here for a minute just to give our boy JT, the AKA the Nat. I want to give him a shout out too. I watched his channel today. He had Ari Lehman on his show. Ari Lehman played the first Jason, and in the Friday the 13th series, and yeah, and he had him on the show today, and it was a terrific interview. Really well done. And Ari Lehman is he's a hoot. He's a powerhouse of energy, that's for sure. And it was a really fun interview, and I was glad to see that there was actually more than 10 people there. There's some people there supporting the show, and I was really happy with that. I was one of the, in the afternoon. I didn't. I was worried for them. I was thinking, man, I hope people show up for this. It's the middle of the afternoon, but people did, and we had a really good time. We got to ask some questions. Um, he talked about his music, and it was an amazing show. I have to admit it. I have to admit that I was a little envious of that. Very well done, and that will be on JT's channel as well. And it continues his winning streak of great interviews. By the way, he has been busting his ass, cranking them out, and definitely go over there and check that out and give that some support. I don't know who he has got coming next. I know he's been doing interviews pretty much on the regular for a while now. I don't know who he has next, but I do know who he had today, and it's definitely worth going over there and checking out. Ari Lehman, really, really, really nice guy. Really nice guy. Tiffany, hi Tiffany, how are you? We're doing well. We're doing well. Uh, um, let's see, still up to Anthony got locked. He's lost. He's lost in 1996. I'm about ready to launch a rescue to Anthony to get him out of there. This is sort of like what's that movie? What's that series? Quantum Leap. I think that Anthony got locked into 1996. He's going to need some rescuing. Um, because 1997 was a pretty good year too. If I'm not mistaken, I do believe I don't know if the Yankees won in '97 or not, but I know they had still had a pretty good year. Um, all right, let's get on to the calendar because I do got some dates coming up in June. I want to talk to you guys about because this is our last week. This is our last week. We only have one more show after today. We only have one more show. Tomorrow we will be here with Streaming Screen Podcast with Jess and Glenn will be here, and yeah, that's gonna be a lot of fun. Those a couple of young folks out there just chopping it up, talking about horror and science fiction and all sorts of fun stuff. And they will be here tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Always good to have fellow podcasters on the show. um, I enjoy talking to them. I think you guys enjoy listening to them. And they will be here tomorrow at 8 o'clock. Then the first week of June comes out. The first week of June comes out, and we're gonna come out swinging because we have another artist coming in. We have our friend Angela Williams will be back with us from Morbid Heart Designs. She will be here for the first show in June, and that will be on Tuesday, June 4th. June 4th. Uh, and say, hey, dude, what's up? How about the Rangers versus Panthers series? Man, I'm talking about the Phillies. Man, what's going on with the Phillies? It's dominating the NL East. It's like they almost want a rematch in 209 with the Yankees. Maybe that might happen. I don't know. Yankees bullpen has been sort of overused a little bit, so I'm concerned about that. But yeah. Hey, Steven, how are you? How are you? Glad you guys are all coming in early. This is going to be amazing. I can tell you, and not only are we going to be able to talk to Sophie Mae, by the way, but she's also going to be trying to do a little bit of art while we're talking. Um, oh, thank you know what? Just when I think there is no God in baseball, he wakes up, he turns around and he makes Angel Hernandez retire. Of course, MLB gave him a fat load of cash to retire. They said, you know what? I mean, they should have fired him, but I think they were scared because he was going to say that he fired him over racial bias. No, Angel, believe it or not, nobody gave a rat's ass about you being Hispanic or not. Everybody gave a rat's ass about you being a good umpire, and you sucked. You absolutely, positively sucked. You sucked from the first day, and you sucked on the last day. So, God, man, he's gone. I'm so glad about that. No problem, Stephen. No problem. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I've seen those before. I've had those. The temperature, atmosphere change. Yeah, I've gotten a few bloody noses that way too. So good that you taking care of yourself. Um, let's see. Oh my God. You know what? I wonder if that happens. Maybe that's how she gets her special ingredient. Maybe she does kidnap people. Who knows? All I know is her art is amazing. Um, yeah, I'm so glad about that. Angel Hernandez. Yeah, well, Sophie can kidnap Angel Hernandez. That'll be all right. I don't think anybody would really be upset about that. But yet again, she does make art, and knowing him, he's no. Um, you know what? Human umpires are going to be the main reason why that we're going to have robot umpires because they just suck. They really, really do. I cannot believe 80 umpire grades out at least 90 degrees. I just can't see it. They miss so many calls, and you got to factor in the cameras for the replays. Man, how many other calls get overturned? I dare say it's probably. I mean, you can't have but a 10% difference. I think, but I think it's more. The professor is coming in. Our fellow budget bala in the house. Fortunately, this budget bala did not have a good week at the library. I had a little league butt, which means I got two items from the library. I got two items, and excuse me. Ooh, I had two items from the library, and I decided not to make a video for that. I'm going to save them for next week and hope that there's some stuff for me to get next week. Um, so while I did get a couple things at the library, I'm gonna wait till next week before I unspring them. But we do have two new reviews up. Two. We have Dollar Theater, and a playlist. We have a new playlist. Oh, the doorbell rang. Okay, the doorbell has rang, so that means you know what that means. We're gonna drop everything and go get our guests. So please share us out if you can, and help me welcome the terrific artist and alternative model, Sophie Mae Vee. Here we go. Oh, let me make that a little bit bigger. There we go. Oh, okay, now I'm truly excited. I am really excited here. How are you today?
Good, they're going good.
I already see you got some art there in front of
Yes,
us.
we're on a painting.
I I have to admit, I've had a few artists on the show. I really have. I've been excited every time for them. I really have. So excuse my enthusiasm because I get jacked when I get to talk to an artist like yourself. Um, and if you doubt that, I did an interview with a metal sculptor named Kevin Stone. Yes, you should see me fanboy out for him. It's the same way, same enthusiasm, because I'm in awe of you guys' talent. It's a skill and talent and drive. I think it's amazing, and I love your art, and I can't wait to talk to you about it.
Well, thank you.
All right, everybody's coming in, everybody's saying hi. Can you see the chat? Okay.
Let me see. I cannot, but that's okay.
Yeah, I can keep up for us. So, um, I'm not sure whether to spring the big surprise or not for people, but I think we're going to wait on that because you have a most unusual way of painting that I've never seen before. I have never heard of anybody painting like this before, and I've been around for a little bit, but I have never heard of this kind of painting, what you use. So I can't wait to talk to you about that. but I want to go back. I want to go back to your start. Um, Not only are you a very skilled artist, but you're also a very skilled alternative model. And I was looking through your gallery, and I was thinking of all the pictures. I'm going like, "Man, I would have, and I should have used that for her picture." Um, of course, anybody who knows me, if you go and look at her pictures, will instantly know the picture I would have used first and foremost for this interview. Um, I, so how did you get your start in art? I mean, obviously, there's people that, they start in kindergarten, like I did, we finger painted and all that, made clay hands, remember that, where we you get a ball of clay and you make a hand imprint on it, and then you bake it, and then you take it home to mom, or you paint it and then you take it home to mom and dad.
Mhm.
Somehow I don't think that's the way you started. So
Honest,
tell us a little bit about that.
honestly, it kind of is.
Oh,
I just kind of my parents are very artsy. My dad does a lot of wood carving, and my mother did a lot of sculpting in clay. Occasionally, they'd draw, and they were very, very talented, and I was always very inspired by them. I never went to art school or anything. I never really focused heavily on art until maybe about 2 years ago, but it's just kind of always something in the background that I've always done.
now, what is the difference? I mean, I know people go to art school, but to me, that would be something I would think that myself would have to do because I'm not naturally gifted. I don't know if this is right or wrong, but I feel that people who go to art school have to learn how to do art. And then there are people who do art that don't go to art school because they don't have to go to art school. They already are gifted. The only thing they probably have to learn is probably about the materials they use. That's probably the biggest aspect of that. But as far as going
Yeah.
to art school and learning how to paint, how to draw, it's like you're being taught how to do that. But
Mhm.
I don't think it's a skill that can be taught. I think it's a skill that's innate, that you're born with that talent. Is that a fair? I mean, would you agree with that? Is that a fair assessment?
I think so. What all of the most talented artists I've ever met have all just had this infinity towards it from youth, and none of them went to school to cultivate it or anything that I've noticed. And I honestly haven't met that many people that are artists now that had gone to art school previously.
I'm trying to figure out. The only thing I can think of people learn in art school is I mean, what learning history of our other artists. Here's the artists of the Renaissance. Here's the art. Here's it's like, okay, how does that affect them? I mean, how does that affect like someone like yourself? Well, don't you want to know about Van Gogh? Why? I'm not painting like Van Gogh. I have my own style.
Mhm.
I don't, what do I need to go back there and learn that for? The only thing I have to learn is types of brushes I use. But then again, that's all done by trial and error.
Mhm. I think so.
Mm,
And obviously, my medium isn't taught in art school.
No, no, it is not. Well, and plus you already had guidance from your own parents. Your own parents were artists already. So again, why go to art school?
Mhm.
I think I mean I might catch heat for this. But as far as art school goes, I just don't know. I mean, maybe someone can come up there and tell me, if they can drop it in the comments or whatnot, but or find me on Instagram. But I don't know the purpose or the point of going to art school. I don't
Yeah,
know
I'm not sure.
I don't know what one would get out of it. That's what I guess what I'm saying.
I imagine if you want to teach art, it would be very handy.
Right. But you know what that's saying? Teach by doing, learn
Mhm.
by doing. And I could imagine. How old were you when you seriously started painting? I mean, when you seriously got into it and
Oh,
you
I
got an idea of knowing what to do. How old were you?
maybe 2 years ago. I
You know
never.
what? I'm not really surprised by that answer.
I
I'm not.
always I always tried to draw better, but I never tried to paint.
So, yeah, you can be. I'm sure you painted. I'm sure it hasn't been 2 years since you started to paint, but it's probably been two. It's probably been 2 years where you really understood what you're painting, because it does take time to realize what you're doing and how you're doing it, right?
I'd say the medium I'm painting with is the first medium I've ever painted with. I maybe in kindergarten I would do finger paints, but that's probably about it.
What did you do after? What was was your first medium drawing, or was it
Yeah,
painting, or
it was pencil.
okay? So how cool was that? Um,
It was a bit of a jump.
it was. I'm sure it was. Now did you get to sit and learn from your mom? Did your mom, and your dad, did they have you sit or have put up an easel next to them so you could paint
um,
while?
Honestly, they both worked a lot, and then very rarely in their free time they would do something artistic, and me and my siblings would sort of just watch over their shoulder what they were doing. They never taught us anything. We just saw that they were very talented, and we kind of emulated what they were doing.
Uh, Thank you again, Mr. Bones. I appreciate that. Yeah, he's dropping links. So if you want to see Sophie's links, Mr. Bones will be dropping them to her link to her homepage, her personal page. I pinned it to the top of the interview, so you can go up there and check it out there as well. And then Tiffany says beautiful painting. Tell us a little bit about your painting that you are doing right now. What are you working on?
This one is a Medusa and bears. It was kind of just a spur of the moment painting that I wanted to do. I don't paint animals, and I've been wanting to branch more into fur, which is a very difficult thing to paint. So this is kind of my first attempt at painting something more realistic with animals. It's almost done.
It's gorgeous. It's absolutely
Thank you.
gorgeous. Let's see. Yes. Oh, Stephen is bringing the secret in the chat. So, yeah. So here's the secret for Sophie May, and that is that she draws in real blood. She uses real blood in her painting. But we're gonna get to that. So going back to drawing, um, you're working with your parents. Uh, is it safe to say of all the painters that you've seen, including the classics, including the masters, it's still your mom and dad that have been your biggest influence?
Oh, definitely, definitely.
That says something. That actually says a lot about their skill set themselves. Because as you got older, I'm sure they took you to galleries and museums. Were there any of the ancient masters that also had any influence in you? Someone like a Michelangelo, or Van Gogh, or Renoir. Was there anybody else out there that influenced you in your?
Definitely Gustave Doré, in my opinion. I absolutely loved his lithographic work that he did in a lot of the Dante's Inferno and books like that. Um, I was very sheltered as a child, so we didn't actually go anywhere. We didn't go to museums. We didn't. I was homeschooled, so I never had the experience of seeing art or being around other kids or anything like that. So most of my inspiration was brought from either books or from nature, and somehow that translated into more. I very much fell in love with the Renaissance era of artwork.
Mm. Now, how old were you when you went to your first gallery, your first museum?
I've never been to a museum.
No, you still haven't really.
No,
You, you,
I went to
you,
the
you,
Mutter Museum, but that's not necessarily art.
Now, now, if you don't mind me asking, why haven't you gone since then? I mean, now
Um, I am. I own my own business, and I have a son. I had him very young, and I have never stopped working. I have never had a moment of free time to, I think, do a lot of things that other young women have had the opportunity to do. I don't mind it. It's just the life that I've chosen.
oh, I hope. How old is your son? Is he like 4 or 5?
He's
Is
7.
he is he able to go to? I mean, I would love to see your reaction at a museum.
Mhm.
I think you would just fall in love with it instantly. Um,
My sister went to Italy and sent a lot of pictures from the museums, and that's definitely something that I wanted. It's on my bucket list to do.
yes, yeah, but yeah, that's so cool. I mean, it's cool that you know that it's cool that you're able to develop your skill set. You know, I mean, it's great to go to a museum, but a lot of artists have mentioned that when they go there, they find themselves unconsciously inspired, you know, and next thing you know, they find themselves drawing what they've seen at a museum, even though it's not necessarily their style, you know, or their
Mhm.
discipline. They find themselves doing it anyway because, you know, they've been, you know, when you see some of the masters up close and personal, you just can't help and they're talking to just non-painters. You're just talking to people who just think the beauty of the art. So you imagine what it's like when you get there and just see something and go be so overpowered by that and sit there and say, that's just amazing. I mean, I've
Oh,
seen
it's a dream.
I've seen people at museums, including my wife, um, who saw some paintings and had tears in their eyes because it was just
Mm.
so gorgeous. Um, so here we are. You're drawing. You're being homeschooled. So there's plenty of time for art. So talk to us next about how you got into. How old were you when you got into paint, or did you go into sculpting next?
I had when I was a young teenager, I actually had these dolls. They were these Asian dolls, and I got very invested in painting their faces to see how realistic I could get them, the eyebrows, the eyelashes, and all that. And I ended up becoming one of the first artists in the US at the time, at about 14, that with those specific dolls that did that kind of work. I wish I had pursued it more because it actually was very fascinating at the time, but I ended up going a bit more of a different direction. That's how I ended up in oddities. And then I think I kind of just circled back to art again.
Now, oddities is absolutely that's like in fact to tell right this split second, I have really actually never heard the term oddities, but now that I'm thinking about it, I mean, I'm just trying to think of some of the, you know, because art is the most subjective thing. And we've always talked
Mm-hmm.
about that. One of the things here, whatever I interview an artist, art is the most subjective of all of anything. I mean, it just is.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of anything else in life that is more subjective than art. As far as that goes, I mean, two people could be sitting side by side and see two different totally things, two different visions. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Wow, oddities. Now, no, where did that term come from? Was that a term that you use, or is that an artistic term?
Honestly, I think it was an adoptive term for a lot of people that are in the industry that I'm in because there isn't really a way to define what it is. Sometimes people will call it oddities, sometimes people will call it curiosities because there's no real parameter for what falls into that category. You know, antique morning hair can be considered just antique to somebody, but it could also be considered an oddity to somebody else. So it's just a very broad term for a lot of different things that could go under that umbrella.
Yeah, guess I'm just in my head. I'm already starting to see this. Like I know I've seen some metal sculpting. I've seen some, you know, pottery that's been shaped and warped, and metal work that's been shaped and warped. I mean, it's not your traditional. You know, it's not traditional. It's not what we expect to see in art. You know, pretty faces, dresses, you know, costumes, you know, settings, houses. You know, what I'm seeing oddities. I'm definitely seeing what I'm looking at right behind you, and you know I'm okay with that. You know, I think it's fascinating. um you know, to get into that kind of art, it's just it's amazing. um so so you started doing your work, your oddities, um and you became very well known pretty quick for that, right?
Pretty quick. In about, I say, a year, I went from being a stay-at-home mom to owning my own company, being able to expand into my own building, start my own, career basically. I definitely didn't expect it to take off as fast as it did or in the direction that it did, but it definitely became when you find exactly what it is that you're meant to do, it just takes off for you, like you said.
Now, how often, how many hours a day do you actually create? I mean,
Every hour of the day. I think I wake up even periodically in the night sometimes, but I don't go to bed until like 4 a.m. because there's always work. There's either painting or there's prepping, specimens for the shop or just prepping the shop in general. It's a lot of work, but it's enjoyable.
there's another artist who we had on the show here. A shout out to our good friend Lazy Cheetah, and I used to see him, and sometimes he still does this. He will start painting at 2 o'clock in the morning. And you go over there and you're wondering like, why is he up painting at 2 in the morning? But the more I thought, well, that's just strange. That's he must have just had something burning up. But I realized that that's how it is. If the spirit moves you, you're moving with the spirit. I mean, it's like I can sleep later. Right now, it's really
Mm-hmm.
is it almost like a physical voice within you to get you to the easel, to get you to the project you're working on? It, do you feel almost like it's an inner power in you getting you there,
It's
or
definitely it's definitely a compulsion to create and then to finish it. If I tried to do it at any other point where I'm not invested in the piece, I can't make myself do it. It'll take months, it'll take years sometimes, and it just never comes out the way that I'd hoped. Whereas something like this took me 2 days just because it just overcame me and I had to do it.
that right there only took you 2 days to do?
Yes.
It just blows my mind. Blows my mind. Wow. That's incredible. Wow. Our good friend Mike is here. Hey, Mike, how are you? He says he has a question. He says, with being an artist, how do you deduce what art you want on your body as a tattoo?
Difficult one.
Again, yeah, again, totally subjective, right?
Very subjective, and I think it definitely changes with age. And that's something that I learned, the moment I had a freedom to do that, I got tattoos, and then I kind of slowed down as I ran out of money, as I got, more into bills in life. And then when I came back to finish some of the tattoos, I was already to the point where I was like, okay, well, I kind of want to shift what they are, but that's obviously going to require more money. So I kind of just stopped where I was for now until I can, curate a better idea of what I want.
Okay. See. Let's see. When a burst of the professor has a comment. When a burst of inspiration hits you, you got to get it out of your system before the feeling is gone. At least that's how I get when I get an idea for a video. Um, it, does that happen? Does that happen where you get an idea and it goes, it leaves you? I have a feeling. I have a feeling that when an idea hits you, like, sometimes when people will be or writers, they'll be asleep and all of a sudden they'll come up with an idea and they get up and they grab like a dream journal and they'll write down the
Mhm.
ideas of what they just thought about. Is that the same with you as an artist? If you're walking or you're sleeping or napping or whatnot, and all of a sudden you wake up with a vision in your head, do you immediately just sketch it out, roughly sketch it out, just be able to come back to it at a later time?
I have what I would consider some kind of gallery in my head where I have these back profiles of paintings that I'll want to do that I'll randomly be hit with the inspiration to do, and I kind of draw them out in my head. And then the reason I rush through these ones is because I need to get to the next one. I need that idea to be on paper. I don't ever really sketch them out, honestly. I just kind of sit down and let it do what it's going to do, slowly getting them to where it's actually translating from my head onto the page correctly, because sometimes it'll just be like way over here where the idea started over here.
And Dell, who is actually a teacher, he comes up with he says late comment, but to me, the value of art school or film, creative writing, etc., is giving you more tools in your tool belt by adding technical skill to your natural ability. That's interesting, but I think of everything that was listed there, creative writing, film, that actually can be taught. That you have to go and learn how to do that. You could, or being. I think that is more. I think both of those both fall into the realm of learning to do, whereas I think it's already in you. The only thing you're learning necessarily is the materials you're going to use, but the vision that the vision and the ability to translate that vision to the easel, I think that's already built within a gifted artist. Whereas I think a director or a creator writer has to do it, has to learn how to do it more than an artist. That's just how I see it. We're gonna get questions. I know we're gonna get a lot of questions here, so I'm gonna keep feeding them to you. Mike mentions, Sophie, have you ever had a dream where you seen an artistic piece and a vision and then created the next day? And that's basically the same thing we just talked about. Um,
Yeah, there's definitely several paintings that I've done that were directly from dreams.
uh, Now, what happens now? Now we have heard a writer's block, where a creative writer has all of a sudden they just I've had that too, and I'm not a creative writer, but I'll sometimes still have writer's block where I'll sit in front of the screen and I just can't get anything jump started. Um, does that happen to artists as well? Has that ever happened to
Oh,
you where you just
definitely.
have, um, so
Definitely.
what do you do to get out of it? Do you wait or do you paint it out?
In times like that, I will take a subject that isn't original art, like a horror character or, sometimes a serial killer portrait, and I will paint that just to practice. Because again, I think every time you paint, you're getting better at what you're doing. So I don't like to take breaks, no matter how much of a writer's block I have, because I don't want to lose my progress in the skill itself.
Right. I'm you drawing a serial killer. I'm thinking I'm thinking to myself going like, well, at least Charles Manson had one good purpose in his life.
He's a fairly common subject. There are other blood painters. I
He
think a lot of blood painters, not that there are a ton, will paint serial killers to make a quick sale for the shock value purpose of it. I can understand that point, and anybody in any industry trying to make a living, but I've definitely painted enough portraits that I've gone every way to, on occasion, to see if I can compare my art to somebody else's to see, okay, am I capable of painting in this medium as good as these people are, or what am I doing wrong that theirs looks, three dimensional and mine is so flat looking. That's just an easier way to do that. Unfortunately, with blood painting, that is the most popular subject.
uh, yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking, I should have guessed that. I should have guessed since he's the most mass media covered killer in American history.
Yeah.
I should have guessed that, but it was just the first thing that came to my head, going like, someone who absolutely contribute nothing to society, and I was thinking, well, now here he is, worm food, and all of a sudden now he's inspiring someone to jumpstart. It's
Hmm.
weird. It's weird, but you do what you do. Um, so let's talk about the this time. How old were you when you first got into modeling? Now you've already established yourself, as an artist. You've been doing it. When did you decide to just to branch out and start doing alternative modeling?
Probably about 3 years ago. I'd say for the last year, it's kind of, with everything happening in life, it's kind of been hit or miss on the opportunities that I've been able to take. So I've kind of been trying to catch up a little bit more this year, which has been going well. But yeah, I didn't start terribly long ago. Somebody actually, a photographer, had invited me to an event, and it kind of ended up every time I'd meet a new photographer, I'd meet three more new photographers and four more new photographers, and it just kind of grew very quickly.
Let's see. Mike has another question. I'm gonna go back to that. Mike has another question. Sophie, have you ever had? Let's see. With being an artist, with being an artist, do you like anime? If so, what's your favorite anime?
It's been a long time since I watched anime. I watched a lot when I was younger, but I'd say my favorite's probably Death Note.
No Dragon Ball Z.
I actually wasn't allowed to watch that as a kid. My parents were very religious, very strict, and they had very strange rules about what we were and weren't allowed to watch.
Your parents rocked. They spared you. They really did. They spared you from Dragon Ball Z. Your parents are parents of the year in my book.
I've never seen it.
Uh, you're not missing nothing.
I remember, like,
I can see some heat coming my way with saying that, but I am. Let's see. Dell, because don't get me wrong, no school is going to give you an original vision or natural ability, but it can help you convey that vision better. Um, yeah, I think for someone like myself, maybe Dell, that might work. Um, but I'm not. You know, I'm a hammer egger. That's really what I am. I'm a hammer egger. You know, I would be someone who sat down there and just know what the hell I'm doing, or one of those people where they have a model in front of you, or you know, like a bowl of fruit or something, and there's like 20 people there, and they say, "Draw what you see." You know, that's the sort of thing that it's like someone like yourself would never have to do. You
I
no.
can I can definitely see it helping with lighting. That's the one thing that I struggle with is no matter how hard I try, it takes a lot of effort to understand how the lighting falls depending because again, this isn't something I'm looking at. This isn't a model that I have set up or anything that's in any realm of real. So knowing where the lighting hits is something that I definitely had to learn.
So do you like using natural light, or do you like using like artificial light? What's the difference, and how does it affect your art?
I prefer to use natural light, but I tend to paint more at night. Honestly, it doesn't really seem to affect much of the paintings. I don't think it's hard to paint with blood in natural light though because it does tend to oxidize faster. So you have to paint in a slightly colder environment. You're supposed to be avoiding the sun. So, if it's a very sunny day, it can definitely inhibit the way that the painting comes out.
Let's see. So I mean, that sort of thing though, isn't that something that you talk with peers about as far as lighting goes? Like, you know, you communicate with them and sit there and say, you know, isn't it also have to do with where how your building's set? I mean, all lighting, natural lighting, it hits differently in just about every building, right? There's no
Yeah.
set. I mean, like if you painted that picture in your house today, and then came over to my house tomorrow, the pat painting, though, while it would be necessarily the same thing in principle, but it would come out looking differently because the light in my house is different from yours. Is that a fair assessment, or is that too
Potentially, I'm not
simplistic?
I'm not sure. I've honestly only ever painted in one environment, so I don't know how honestly how that would be affected that much.
That would be interesting to find out, wouldn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. It'd be a good experiment.
Okay, okay. Well, there. See, now we have a reason to have. Not that we need to, but now we have a reason to have Sophie come back. So you know, I'm already scheduling you already. Um, okay, the alternative modeling you said about 3 years ago.
Mhm.
What inspired that? I mean, was it a way to break free of, you know, now that you mentioned that about your parents being highly religious, we can talk a little bit about that if you're comfortable. But
Sure.
is that one of the reasons why you got into it, to sort of help, you know, find your identity, speak your voice, stand to your power?
I definitely think there's an element of finding your own identity in it. I was very much into photography. I was very much into art, and I was very much into fashion design and um, costume creation. So having that opportunity, I've been on all sides of the fence of that. I've gotten to photograph people. I've gotten to create elaborate outfits for events. I've gotten to host events. I've gotten to model. I think it all just it tickles my interest in all of my creative outlets, and I think that's why I enjoy it so much.
See, Mike is happy with your answer about Death Note. He got really excited. Death Note is his favorite as well. Great taste, Sophie. There you go. Only the best. Um, let's see. Stephen mentions Morgan might frown on Bobby. Oh God, I love Morgan. She's so sweet. Yeah, I know that. You know what? I'm sure I'll pay for that later. If she hears that, I'm sure she'll come and let me know about it. Um, let's see. Let's see. Lynette has a question for Sophie. What was your inspiration for getting into art? Um, was the inspiration solely your parents? I mean, was it solely your parents, or were you able to see magazines or something on TV, or you know?
Honestly, I was never very much into art growing up. I was capable of having an artistic skill. I could draw, and I knew that. I knew that what I did was better than most children my age. But I always found it grueling, and I always would get very angry at what I was creating because I knew I could do it better and it wasn't turning out that way, which is aggravating having not done art school and not having any outlet to learn art better. And I didn't end up coming back to it until my late 20s. And my sole inspiration for painting was actually um, I ended a long-term relationship, and my means of income became very low to the point where all I had at that point was literally my own art. So I would literally sit up all night, every night, painting in blood to sell paintings to try and build a name for myself, so I could build a bigger future for my son and myself. And I never thought that it would be the reason that I got out of the situation that I was in and build. I have a oddities shop now, and I have a house and I have a car, and it's just I'd say it was motivation inspired that made me become a better artist. And I think it definitely enabled me to be able to enjoy doing art again and not make it so competitive with myself, if that makes sense.
Um, how does one compete with oneself? I mean, what do you mean by that? Competing with yourself?
I just knew that what I was seeing in my head wasn't translating onto paper correctly. It wasn't good enough. And I'd ended up not even trying because I knew that it wasn't going to be what I wanted. And I had to get over that roadblock of being like, well, you have to actually practice to get better. You can't just, throw something away halfway through. You have to actually finish it. And
Right.
that alone taught me how to paint better.
I, I'm just yeah. I mean, and plus supplies are expensive. Just to go half cocked and sit there and say, this is this is not what I like. Uh, you know,
Hmm.
you know. But what really gets me is this. It's like I'm sure this has happened many times where someone has seen a piece of your art and just been blown away by it. And it blows me away. It's like I'm looking at that art behind you and I'm thinking, this is, that's just an amazing piece. But to you, you could actually look at it and sit there and say, I don't like it. It doesn't look very good. I want to start again. I don't like it. I'm getting rid of it. And to me, I would be
Hmm.
screaming, please don't do that, because it's to me, it's absolutely beautiful. Has that happened too with other? I mean, do you have peers come over to look at I mean, do you guys do that too? Have you ever gone over to a fellow artist's house to help them? Like, maybe they're into that funk too, and you come over there and you sit there and say, "Listen, I'm just telling you as a friend and as a peer, you're on the right track. You're
Oh,
you're
definitely.
oh, good, because that's the way it should that work, because
Yeah.
it would really hurt my heart to know that there's potential beautiful pieces that you're creating that you're throwing away because you yourself you don't like them and you haven't shown them to anybody else to help you sit there and say, listen, time out, don't do that, at least
Hmm.
not yet, at least not yet. um
Hmm.
yeah, I'm sure there's plenty of people out there that are watching us now in hearing you say that are probably saying the same thing, like, she's throwing something out. You know what
I've thrown away a lot.
I tell you what, next time you feel like that, you feel like you need to throw something out, spin it and spin it, spin it and send it, because I'll be more than happy to put it on my wall. Uh, 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 um, yeah, I think the worst piece of your art would be the best about 95% of what I've seen, a modern art that I've seen. So let's see. Go back to the chat. Let's see. I know Professor Wright, model artist and costume maker. That's awesome. Steven says yes, she might watch the recap. Not if someone doesn't say anything to her, Steven. I mean, she won't even know unless somebody tells her. We're talking about an actress named Morgan Thompson Halam. She's a Dragon Ball Z fan, and her and I we tease each other about it. So okay, so I guess we'll come to the point now. We're going to come talk. I want to talk about the hidden aspect of your art, and that is why blood. When did you get this? When did you start that? Who have you ever seen anything like that before? Because I have not. I've never heard of anybody using blood in their art. This stuff. I mean, it's one of the things that really, when I heard that, my ears go bing, because I've never heard anybody doing that. So talk to us a little bit of how that has come into your gift.
So originally, my parents being very religious, they were very, very anti-occult. And obviously, as a young teenager, I just went full down that way because that was so interesting. That's what you aren't allowed to see. And there was a lot of, ancient writings that were done with blood, or there'd be paintings done in blood, and that was my original fascination. And I always knew some point in my life I was going to do a painting in blood, and it wasn't until I was probably about 20 where I tried, and it was terrible. So I gave up on the idea for a while. And then I met my now fiance, and he actually is a famous blood painter. He's done hundreds of paintings, and I was absolutely infatuated with his work, and I wasn't anywhere in comparison with his ability to paint. And when we started dating, he taught me just a couple tricks that he did with painting, and it just completely changed how it laid on the page and ended up turning out. But honestly, it was pretty simple. I know of other blood painters on my Facebook friends list. I'm friends with a few very, very talented blood painters. I don't think I've met anybody in person past my fiance that has. He's probably the most famous that I know. And yeah, that's fairly simple, honestly.
Um, so I guess the big question is, whose blood do you use?
I always use my own. I find it the safest method. My fiance, he's trained in taking blood, so he'll take my blood for me. There's too much risk, I think, with using other people's blood, especially if they're trying to mail it to me. And there are very few occasions that I will. If somebody asks for a memorial piece and it's specifically about a loved one that has passed, obviously I want to use something that's not mine. If somebody requests wedding rings, I'll make wedding rings and inlay it with their blood. But 90% of the time, I will only use my own blood.
Um, let's see. See, Professor. Without giving away any trade secrets, but how does Sophie keep the blood from coagulating or change color? And then Dad wants to know, where does the blood come from? So the blood comes from you always.
Yes.
And then as far as that was one of my questions, was how fast do you have to use the blood? And I mean, when you mix it, how do you stop them from coagulating? Do you put like a
So I have two different methods that I use. A lot of my paintings you'll see people post are either slightly oxidized or very red. I don't use a traditional anticoagulant, but when I do, um, the chemical component of it helps keep it very bright. It makes it very bright and it lasts for a very long time. I've had paintings that I've done 2 years ago that are still today very red. But my other method that I've been using for this painting and all of my much grander pieces, I actually don't use any anticoagulants. I don't use anything in the blood at all. I just use it straight as it is. And depending on the environment or how I prepare the blood, I'd say it roughly takes about 2 to 5 days of keeping it in the fridge before I have to take more blood.
so it has a very short lifespan?
Yes, especially if you accidentally leave it out and then you have to discard of it, and it's kind of a waste. And getting poked with needles is not fun. So I always try and I'm very careful with how I take it, when it's going to get used, if I know that's immediately going to get used and such.
Now, do you set up like when you know you're doing a blood paint, so you get everything laid out first and foremost. Like it's almost like at the starting line.
Yes.
Then your fiance, he takes the blood from you.
Hmm.
Now, does the blood have to be chilled first, or is it better for it to come straight from the vein to the canvas?
I actually find it easier when it's warm because it's a little hard to explain. It's very much like watercolor, but it's also very much almost like a chalky consistency when it dries. So when it's warm, or you're using warm water with it, it breaks down very smoothly. Where if you're using cold water, it'll streak, and then you'll end up staining a page. It's a very finicky medium, but
Yeah, I would think so.
yeah.
And how much is this? How much do you safely draw from yourself? And do you have to do it? How long in between draws? Um, can you get another one? I mean, like if you draw like you can't draw a pint necessarily, but you can draw maybe like what 4 or 5 ounces maybe. If that would
So when you're donating blood for donation purposes, for medical purposes, you're donating around 500 to 600 milliliters at a time. And you can donate that about, I believe, once a month.
yeah.
A painting like this takes 5 milliliters. So I can safely paint a painting pretty much every day of the week by taking new blood every day of the week, and I'd be fine. I tend to take about 10 milliliters and I stretch it out between two paintings, which take me about a week or more to do two paintings. So I'm honestly not taking blood that frequently.
Okay.
So other than the needle, there's no ill effect of doing it. Obviously, you have to be careful with, again, whose blood you're using. You don't know if someone has some kind of venereal disease or anything. And
Yeah, of course, of course. I was going to say though I dare say there are probably some people that if they wanted to commission you, like hey, I want to commission you to do a painting with my blood. Is that something you do, or is that something you sit there and say, yeah, it's just too risky to do?
I very rarely will. I don't tend to take commissions in general, but when I do take a commission based on that, it definitely affects the price point because I require more safety
Yeah.
um, parameters just to even be able to paint. Like I have to make sure that I have a sterile environment. I have to be wearing a mask. I wear gloves. I'm very careful with what I'm handling. I'm making sure it's not touching anything that I reuse. So all of my equipment, my brushes, everything are all bought specifically for that painting and then discarded with after.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, the price point gets built up quite a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you go through
Which
more
which is
supplies.
why people tend to only do like memorials or something very personal. They don't tend to, they don't really want an original piece so much so as they want a specific portrait of a loved one or something like that for that purpose.
Let's see. The professor mentions. Uh, let's see. Says that's interesting. And how does Sophie seal the blood painting to avoid the blood from going bad? Yeah, I mean, is it- is 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 this something where you do your art and then you can paint it over with an acrylic to seal the blood in? Does it affect the blood if it covers it?
I actually use a UV sealant spray for acrylic paintings, and that seems to have always worked perfectly.
Okay,
And also,
and it lasts forever.
they will last an eternity. Yep.
Wow, that is okay.
I
So
have
obviously the Medusa behind you, obviously is that a normal painting or is that a blood painting that you used in the Medusa?
this is all blood, 100% blood.
The entire picture is made out of blood.
Yes. It was a very light sketch with pencil, very light, and then everything else is just built up layers of blood.
Now, now how long did it take you to do that with the blood? I mean, is that like a several days picture or
This one was about 2 days working in the evenings, so probably a total of maybe 8 hours.
oh, so that's brand spanking new. So
Yes.
so how many blood draws did it take for that one?
This one is actually 10 milliliters because of how dark I built up underneath the bear. Usually they're about 5 milliliters, but this is my 16 by 20 inch size, which is a bit bigger. This one I actually painted last week, and here's the interesting thing: is my method of prepping the blood. You can see that it's still very red. I'm
It's
actually
absolutely
impressed. I'm impressed that it's still that red, having not sealed it, because I can't seal it until I'm completely done with the painting. Otherwise, it won't blend the right way. So
that's
I'm actually,
insane.
it was a bit of an experiment on this one.
That's absolutely insane. I thought, honest to hell, I really thought that you mix the blood with the paint itself
Nope, just
to
straight blood right out of the tube.
oh, damn. Wow, because that was my question was like, how do you mix the blood with the paint so that it stands out? And but that's 100% you. Oh, my
Yep.
mind is blown. All right, y'all. So check it out. So check it out. I do I bring you the best? Do I bring you the best guest or what? Seriously, is this the place to come when you want to see an interview? This is amazing. Wow.
Thank you.
I gotta sit there and say, Kevin Stone, there's somebody there knocking on your door as far as me have my mind blown by art. That's amazing.
Well, thank you.
Can you bring that a little closer to the camera
Sure.
so we can catch the detail? Now you're really unhappy with that picture. I can tell in your eyes you're really unhappy with it. So you probably need to look at that. Oh my God, that's yeah, right. No, Star Lord, Star Lord. Bob Ross paints happy trees. Yeah, Bob Ross is a hack. Damn. The only thing I can think of now is just how freaking more amazing that would have been if she had used cheetahs. Oh,
I want to do one of a leopard, like a black leopard in a tree. Black leopards are my favorite.
how about an orange and white cheetah?
It would have to be red and red, Cheetah.
Yeah, I guess he would have to be red. Well, he is red anyway. Orange. They call them gingers. And that is redhead. So you could do in theory, you could do a cheetah. Um, okay, here we go. Yeah, it's a very good masterpiece of arts from Star Lord. I'm with you, brother. That's an
Thank you.
amazing piece of art. What else? What other pieces do you have a few backup pieces? For your have you ever done a showing? Have you ever taken your pictures to an art gallery?
I have no, not. I have been asked a few times, but I'm actually finding it difficult to have enough paintings on hand because
You sell
majority
them.
of my paintings are selling before they're even finished. This one sold before I even was working on the trees. The other paintings, it's I have nothing to take with me somewhere, which makes it a little bit difficult to have some kind of gallery.
Now, of course, I have to ask this, but you don't have to answer this. Or you feel obligated to answer this at all. But how much of a piece like that would run if someone like myself wanted that piece? If we wanted to buy that? What would we look at? What would we be looking at in terms of price for that?
My average paintings are the 8 by 10 pieces. They're a bit smaller. They're 300. And then these ones are the 16 by 20s, which I just started doing a lot more of, and they're 1,000.
Yeah, that's still you're still underpricing yourself. That's amazing. That is
I
just
definitely have to build up my name for myself.
oh my gosh, yeah. You keep doing stuff like that, that won't take but a thing. I can tell you right now, everybody that's watching this right now in the chat, there's 7 of us watching this, and I'm telling you, we're never forgetting this. Star Lord says, it's a very good masterpiece of art. Steven says, and see, yes, Steven introduced us. Yep, to book this show. Yep. And Dale says, awesome painting. Let's see. Dale says, please no more Bob Ross slander. That's my childhood. I'm sorry you had a rough childhood, Dale. It's all right. You're among friends. You're in a safe space. See, she can make merch with them. Like, I see. I don't think she would do that, Star Lord. She can make merch with them, like digitize it on T-shirts. Yeah, that's never going to happen. We're talking an artist here. I mean, that's
There's some blood painters that do. They'll put them on T-shirts and mugs and like, mouse
that
pads, and I think it completely takes away from
the
what it
unique.
is.
Yeah, I agree. I would never consider merchandise in this at all. This is
Hmm.
this is absolutely gorgeous, and it's a one of
Very,
a kind
very
original piece.
occasionally, I'll do prints. I had a lot of people requesting a series of serial killers in blood, because again, that is the most popular requested thing. And I did a run of prints just on those ones, but I probably won't be doing prints on any of my other paintings.
Now, I can actually see one thing. I'll give Star Lord out because I think it would be very cool to digitalize it. But I definitely can see doing like a coffee mug. I think that would actually be pretty cool, and you can put your name on it and whatnot, and sell a coffee mug. That I think Star Lord would have something there. But as far as doing prints go and putting it on T-shirts, I hope that you would never do that.
Hmm. I've done a
Uh,
few logos for businesses. People have had requested that I paint their logo in blood, and then they made that the face of their business, which was cool.
and no one and probably no one gets it. No one realizes what like if you didn't tell anybody that was blood, people would not know. But I'm sure that once
Yeah.
they find, yeah,
They're probably wondering what this brown blob is their logo.
yeah. Why is she drinking a lot of orange juice while she's talking to me? Uh, I'm just thinking to myself. I was thinking to myself when I sat here. I'm going like, I wonder if she did commissions. I wonder how much a Hello Kitty would cost. Now I'm too scared to even think about that because that would freak me the hell out having a Hello Kitty with drawn with blood. That would just
I'm pretty sure I've seen it done. I think I
really.
have. Yeah, I think it was a very like a gothic style Hello Kitty, but was done with blood and ink. I think Maxime did it. He's a famous blood painter, I believe, up north.
Now, of course, you do other paintings too without the blood, right? I mean, blood is not solely the only thing that you do.
I've never painted with anything else but blood.
Really? Are you thinking about doing that? Are you thinking about like,
Yes.
okay, yeah.
I
So
I really want to try oil painting because again, I really love the Renaissance style, and I think again, painting in blood is very much like watercolors, and watercolors does not want to blend. And I think I love being able to blend paints together, and I'd like to be able to create something even more three dimensional than you can possibly do with blood. So I'd like to do oil paints just because that's always been a point of fascination for me. It's a very
okay,
expensive one though.
right. I mean, yeah. I mean, at least you're saving money on with blood painting. You're saving money on paint. I mean, you don't
Oh yeah.
you're it's all
Yeah.
organic. Uh,
I mean, oil
uh,
paints can run like 20 bucks for a tube.
right.
Those last very long. It's hard
No,
to justify
no.
the cost unless you are a talented master.
Yeah, I can either buy 25 tube of paint here, or I just wait and then drink some OJ and just get it for, hit the tap over here. um, yeah, you know what? I want to know. I'm going to ask. I want to know if you have any other paintings there that we could take a look at.
I do, yeah, I'll go get them.
All right. That's right. Stephen did introduce me and Sophie May, and thank you for that, Stephen. I do look, it's funny too, is I look very hard for artists. I do. I look around for artists all the time, and they are sometimes hard to get as far as talking to. Um, but we will be having one next week. Our friend Angela from Morbid Heart Design, whose art I absolutely also dig to the most, she will be here next Tuesday. So we are almost having two shows back to back with featured artists.
Okay, this one I also finished. I finished it the same week that I was working on the one behind it.
Okay, so this is what angel is that?
This was no specific angel. This one is titled Mother My Keeper. It's just more about, because again, I have a young son, and I was inspired by being a single mother and raising my son and the difficulty of that. And it just kind of, I don't know, it just came out as a painting.
Let's see. The professor says that he would have liked to see a Countess Bathory blood painting.
I have
Yeah,
done one, and it's in a museum.
yeah. Now, how oh, that's so. Look at the detail on that. How long did that take you to draw?
Um, it didn't take me long to draw, but it took me about 2 days to paint as well.
Only 2 days to paint that. God,
It actually, this one obviously is a bit lighter than the other one. The other one was very heavily pigmented. The lighter ones are, I think, a little bit easier because I'm not having to build up layers, letting it dry, build up layers, and so forth.
but I think that works though, right? I mean, it does work. The
Yeah,
line.
I
Yeah.
like the softer. Here's a smaller one.
I love her hair. Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Crowley?
Anton LaVey.
Oh, Anton LaVey. Okay.
I actually haven't done one of Crowley yet.
Okay. Anton LaVey had the Church of Satan in San Francisco. I know who he
Yeah.
is. Yeah.
And
What
then
do your
this one
what
is,
do your parents what do your parents think of your art?
they
Have you
don't love
shown
it.
them?
They love the art, but they don't love the medium. They're always trying to convince me otherwise.
What I mean oh, Edgar Allan Poe,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
Wow, look at that.
I had a series of these that I was doing where I was doing half the face in like a memento mori skeleton style. I did one of, oh goodness, what's her name?
That is so cool.
Marie Antoinette.
That is so cool. Wow, that's a mind blower. I love that. Love that. The Anton LaVey. Um, Now your parents were, they say that, like if your parents, the more they are against something, the more you want to explore it. So
Mm-hmm.
have you explored the occult since you became an adult? Is there a
um,
fascination with the occult?
very, very heavily when I was younger. Honestly, that's how I got into oddities. It all kind of, all backtracks to a certain place, but that was my beginning point. I used to run a blog specifically on the subject of like demonology and demonolatry and just studying occultism and stuff like that. I don't so much anymore. Life's gotten too busy. It's been several years, but that's definitely a focal point that started all of this.
That is not the most. That is like that's pretty. It's a pretty dangerous. It's a dangerous field to walk into. Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah, I'm
Mm-hmm.
one of those. I'm with you. I might be on the other side of the fence with you about it, but I'm with you. I understand. But I understand it. I mean, yeah, I still know. I still retain enough of what I studied when I was younger. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but I know Anton LaVey. I know that he had the Church of San Francisco, or Church of Satan in San Francisco. He was very infamous. Um, I don't know if this tells you how far of the loop I am. I'm not sure if he's still with us or not.
No, he passed away.
Yeah, I thought he had. I don't know. That's about it. I have not like dipped into it in over 25 years. But the
Mm-hmm.
stuff that you learn in 25 years stays with you. It's
Mm-hmm.
like don't let your hexagram get, don't forget your awards when you draw your hexagrams.
I
Um,
never practiced anything in the occult, but I love to study it. That was always my rule.
yeah,
I'd never dabble in anything that I was, had a healthy fear of, so to speak.
yeah.
But
No, I
studying
have a
it,
healthy
I
fear
loved
too.
the history.
It's weird when you see it on TV and they're trying to put the words in, or they forget who put the words in. They'll just draw a single circle with a hexagram, right? And they're going like,
Mm.
and then they put the second circle around there, and they don't put the words in. And then it's like, that's like playing Russian roulette with a real gun. You don't want to do that, Well, what are you talking about? You can be a non-believer all you want, but if you dabble in that, you're gonna, playing with fire.
Definitely. I'm just plugging my phone in real quick so it doesn't die on me.
Sure. How what do you get out of doing your alternative modeling? What do you like you said? I'm going to come back real briefly to that. Now, what inspired you to do the modeling? versus, is it just another outreach, another creative outreach for you?
Yeah, definitely. I never honestly considered it because, one thing they tell you about modeling is that, you know, if you're a woman, you have to be very tall. You have to be very tall and very slender, and that's not me. I'm 5 foot tall. So I never even considered it. But
But you're
I just,
very slender, though. I
hmm?
mean, you're very petite for sure. I looked at the
The
pictures
camera
of your
lies.
model. Huh?
The camera lies. There's a very,
Well, I
very
don't know.
talented photographer.
Who did the photographer? That your fiance did that?
No, no, all different photographers.
All different photographers. Okay. The pictures are absolutely gorgeous, and they're consistently catching you in the same light. I noticed that too. I was thinking, these are different pictures, and it looked like different locations, but they all caught you the same way. Um,
Hmm.
and I thought they were beautiful. I love the different costumes you wore. The two pictures I really thought that really captured you perfectly was the one where you're dressed as an angel. I thought that was outstanding. I thought that was beautiful.
Thank you.
That was perfect. And of course, the one that you took with the cat. I thought that was I thought that was really top notch. And I just thought it was really sweet. And then the way the cat sitting, the way I was sitting there going like, how they got the cat to sit there like that long enough for you to take the picture. But it's very impressive. It's very impressive. It's a great picture. So do you get to, when you look at yourself in these pictures, how do you see yourself when the first time you saw that when someone took a picture for you for modeling? What was your reaction to it when you first saw yourself? Were you impressed by how you looked and how they made you look? Did,
I was impressed by the quality of the photography, but I could definitely see how far I needed to go with it. It was an environment where there was a lot of other models who had been doing it for years, and it's something that you can think is very easy to do, and then you get the pictures back and you're like, well, I guess it makes sense that they've taken thousands of pictures, so they know exactly what leg to move to get that angle to not make it look very awkward and disbalanced. So that even now I'm still learning how to pose better to make the photographer's job easier, basically, so the photographer doesn't have to tell me so much what to do.
um, now, do you have a circle? I mean, is there a circle of both photographers and artists that you draw upon, that you talk to in your community? Is there like a little group of creatives that you
For the most part, yeah. Down in Lebanon, there's a photography studio that I frequent the most for when I have the more elaborate ideas. We just did one where we set up we had a large garage space, about 30,000 square feet. We set up a rain shoot to make it as if it was raining inside the building. It was about 6 photographers that ended up taking pictures of the event, and it was very elaborate. It had to set up the lighting and everything, and that's where I take most of my more innate ideas. I live very, very much north in the country, so it's you know photographers and models and studios are more towards the cities, so it's a little bit harder to make sure that everything is all together at one place, so it's worth it. But
run?
I have a lot of photographers travel. They'll either book me to travel somewhere, or they'll come out because they know I'm very, very busy with work in general. They'll come out and do a photo shoot near where I live or where I work, or we'll congregate in a park or something like that.
So do you have a shop? Is your shop set up in town? I mean, your business is set up in town, or is it at your house?
It's in town. It's in Honesdale, PA.
Okay, okay. So people can go there and they can buy art. But you say you have a hard time keeping stock. So how does that
Yeah.
work? If I walked in there, I mean, it's do you show other artists' work in your gallery?
Um, my shop is just for oddities and antiques. I don't show any of my paintings because, again, I don't have any to put in there. I tend
Right.
to post like a preview of something that I'm painting on my Facebook or whatever social media I'm using, and it ends up getting bought that day. On the off chance they end up actually finishing a painting and having it in hand, I usually have recurrent clients that love my work that'll end up asking for that piece for their personal gallery. but I don't actually no, I don't actually carry any in the shop for that reason.
Uh, yeah, yeah. So, okay. Now oddities and antiques. So there's other things in your shop. Then you said you go around shopping for weird pieces of art, and different. Do you repurpose what you find? Do you find things when you go out? And what kind of things do you carry in your shop that people would they came over there to see? What kind of things would they be looking for?
The main thing that I do for business is the oddities. So I'll travel around to antique stores or flea markets or other events, or I'll have specific people that actually go picking for me, is what they're called, and they know what I'm looking for, and they'll bring it to my shop, and I'll buy it from them. Um, Things like religious antiques, memento mori items, mortuary items, funerary, a lot of embalming antiques, things that I think most people would consider very peculiar. They end up having a very large market, very large fascination for, I guess, people that would be considered strange. But that's what I prefer.
Right, right. So you got a good reputation for that, so people know to come to you.
Yeah.
They know to come to you. Now, I don't think I put this down, but does your shop have a website as well? Um,
Yes. I
okay,
just
so I'm gonna.
finished it yesterday, I think.
Oh,
We just opened
okay.
on
Because I was
Saturday,
thinking to
so
myself,
it's
I'm
been
going like,
very
oh,
busy.
I'm thinking to myself, going like, how did I not miss that? How did I miss not putting that down there? Thank God.
No, you're good.
So we'll put that down in the description box below. So if you want to shop Sophie Mae's shop and you want to buy something really cool, and then please visit the website and invest in some art and some of a very highly skilled and highly gifted young lady. Um, did anybody have any questions before we think about wrapping this up? What's next for you as far as upcoming? Do you have like a backlog of orders to fill?
Oh yes.
Be weird because
With opening the shop, I fell very behind. So I have a lot of commissions to finish up before I can even begin to do any of my own original art again.
wow,
That's why I ended up closing down my commissions because it ended up getting a bit too much.
yeah. Yeah, do people realize? I mean, do people realize like I was just taken by surprise, like the entire painting was blood, or do people think like I do that you just mix it in and then draw, or were they aware of full on that this is 100% you?
I'm actually not sure. I try and put it in my pieces if it's 100% blood, 100% raw medium without any anticoagulants. But yeah, I should put that in the description somewhere. I do have a website for just my blood paintings, just for like informational um, tidbits. But yeah, that's something I should probably put up there, I think.
Yeah, because I was just absolutely yeah. This is just amazing. This is just amazing. Starlar says the art rocks. Seriously, yeah. Definitely, this has definitely been a one of a kind for sure. Um, Very much like Kevin Stone with his he's a metal sculptor. He made a dragon as big as the one for Game of Thrones. He made a
Oh
Drogo
wow,
and
that's impressive.
a breathe fire. So
Dang.
um, so what do you do on your off time then? I mean, when you're not working in your shop and when you're not painting, what do you do? I know you have a son. So what do you do for fun and relaxation while you build up your blood supply again?
Honestly, I don't get any free time. I had one day off in the last 2 years, and I went to my nephew's birthday party.
And that's it. What kind of
Yeah.
diet do you eat, Sophie? If you don't mind me asking, I mean, because you have to generate the blood and everything. Is there a specific diet you eat to maintain, to help your blood?
I actually have an autoimmune condition, so I'm a fairly sickly person. So I do have to watch what I eat. So I eat really high protein, very high vitamin stuff. Anything that'll make sure that I'm, healthier when I do take the blood, because I have noticed the blood does react different depending what you eat that day, depending how much you've slept, if you've had too much caffeine, if you're not healthy. And the healthier you are, obviously, I find that the redder the paint is, the longer it stays red and the easier it is to work with. I'm not sure. I mean, I guess it would make sense, but there is a significant difference I've noticed, especially if you're eating say very fatty foods, and then you go to take blood, you get a lot of lipids in your paint, and it ends up not very, it doesn't work very well.
No, because it causes the blood to float, doesn't it?
Yeah, it kind of separates into just different cells of the blood, and it doesn't want to behave basically.
Wow. Okay. Okay. Let's see. Let's see. Steven, are you in? Uh, Costume making? I don't know. Yeah. Steven says the semi and the he's in the same boat. His diagnosis was cirrhosis, liver,
Mm,
yeah, which is an autoimmune disease. Yeah, yeah,
it's a struggle. It's
yeah.
it's gotten
That's a
worse
tough
with my
one.
age, which and then stress makes it worse, overworking makes it worse, and having opening
Right.
a shop and finishing paintings and everything, I've noticed that my body's kind of like you're having a downtime whether you want it or not.
Do you see yourself? Do you see yourself? Will there be a lifespan to what you can do? How long you can go? Is that one of the reasons why you're starting to experiment with oil based paintings in case that day does come where it becomes where it comes a little impractical to do blood painting?
I think there's always a potential of that, but I also don't want to corral myself into one subject because again, it is a shock factor kind of painting style, or it's considered such. And I definitely want, as my art progresses, I want to get be known as an artist, not just, oh, she
I
paints in blood.
wasn't. I'm not shocked by it. From myself personally, I'm not shocked by it. I'm amazed at how skilled you are.
Thank you.
I don't care if it was blood, oil, charcoal, or anything. That's beautiful. I don't
Thank
care
you.
what you use to draw it. It's just amazing. It just looks amazing.
Thank you.
So and even the blood in it, that's just another element, right? I think that's how you look at
Hmm.
it. And
That's
I think
definitely how I look at it.
I mean, it's a I mean, have you had anybody freak out when you told them this is I made this out of my own blood? You have like you mentioned your parents don't like it too much, but your parents aren't going to sit there and go like, "Oh my God, no." They're going to sit there and say, "Well, that's a little different, but be careful."
I'd say 99% of everyone has just been in awe of it. And the other 1% is definitely like the hard the other direction. Oh, this is Satanism. She's disgusting. She's a terrible mother. They just go extreme the other direction. And,
Painting the human blood is not Satanism.
people are convinced.
They're
They are
not.
just convinced.
Wow, wow, how ignorant is that? Boys and girls, painting in blood is not Satanism. That's Yeah, that's not Satanism. That's art. If you want to know what Satanism is, go do some reading, or better yet, don't. Um, well, Sophie, I tell you what, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. I want to thank you so much for doing this interview with us. I'm absolutely blown away. I'm one of those 99 percenters, blown away by your skill set. That's an
Well, thank you so
amazing,
much.
it's an amazing gift.
Thank
Um,
you. And thank you for having me. I really enjoyed this.
Oh, good. I'm glad. I'm glad. I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you. Has anybody ever interviewed you before about your art?
Not about my art. One time, I did a podcast about like my oddity business in general, but I hadn't gone hard into painting yet. So this would be the first, actually.
All right. Well, I'm glad to have been the first, and I'm honored to do so because, like I said, I'm a huge art fan. My wife and I we went to many museums, and I'm amazed. I appreciate it.
I
And
appreciate it. Thank you.
yeah, it's awesome. Um, all right, boys and girls, that is going to be it for tonight. I want to thank you all for coming out. Those who stayed with us in the chat, I appreciate you so much. Without you guys, I wouldn't have a show. I want to thank our guest Sophie Mae, for coming out here and showing her gift. We will be back tomorrow night. We'll be back tomorrow night with Streaming Scream with Justin Glenn, and they will be here, and we'll be going back to horror movies. Um, Oh, that's too bad, James. You have to watch the replay, brother. Yeah, yep. You can definitely watch the replay. You will be totally be amazed by this one. We'll be here tomorrow night for Jess and Glenn, and we'll be talking all things horror and some science fiction, and we're going to talk a little Star Wars tomorrow too, because I want to get their input on this. Been reading them lately. I'm not sure if you're a big Star Wars fan or not, but I've been reading a lot of so-called fans going off the rails. We're going to address that with Jess and Glenn tomorrow. All right. Thank you for coming out, Jess. Jess. Sophie Mae, will you stay right there for 1 second into the chat? Thank you so much. We will see you. We will see you tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Peace.